So tell me your experience where Steve Scalise affected you personally.
Well, it was August 31st, 2008. Everyone was evacuating. We'd just gone through Katrina for 3 years prior. Mother was 88 years old. We've been, in a van for about 6 hours. We needed to pull over for a rest stop. So at Brookhaven, Mississippi, we pulled over, and my mother had been cramped up in a van for 6 hours. And when my mother got out of the car, I think she had a case of deep vein thrombosis, because almost instantly she said she couldn't breathe, and then passed out, and eventually passed away. It was like being in a war. We had to abandon her body at the hospital in Brookhaven, proceed with our evacuation to Atlanta, because that's where we had made plans to stay. And after the hurricane, when we came back to New Orleans, and I contacted the funeral home, Shane on Canal Street, to arrange a burial for her and to transport her body back here. She had a burial policy that she bought probably in the 50s or the 60s that I'm sure a lot of people bought in Louisiana, that was supposed to cover your entire burial expenses. The funeral director tells you, well, your policy is only worth $2,500 now because the legislature changed the law. So now you have to come up with the difference in cost. And the Louisiana state legislature passed a law that converted all these policies from being total benefits policy to actual cash value of $2,500. And apparently Steve Scalise was one of the driving forces as a state legislature to push this through the legislature. And I tried reaching out to Scalise, and I think the senators at the time were Vitter and maybe Landrieu, and I wasn't getting a response from anyone. So going from where we thought full burial coverage, now we only had $2,500.
And what does it cost for a full burial?
$10,000 to $15,000 is about the cheapest, an average funeral would cost.
So you were under the impression that this insurance would cover all of that?
Correct.
And nobody ever informed you that this had changed?
No, we found out when we went to the funeral home, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in that same position who were finding out maybe daily, when they go, their parents may have died or whatever, and if they had one of these policies, maybe their parents bought it for them. And, baby boomer dies, and you go to the funeral home, and then you confront it with this news. No advance notice. Steve Scalise was the driving force pushing this through the legislature.
Okay, this is not the first time I've heard that. This sounds like another example of Steve Scalise supporting the profits of an industry over the people that he represents.
Correct. He really doesn't care about the people of his district.